Hello, we are live. Me and Mary, we're here to talk about our Sekhmet energy class that is going to be happening this coming Sunday. So welcome to the show, Mary. I feel like it's been a while since we've had you on.
Great. It's great to see you, Julietta. Hello, everyone. And as usual, I'm here to talk about Egypt, and I'm really excited about this class. Um, Julietta and I were in Egypt together not that long ago, working with Sekhmet and being in that beautiful temple at Karnak. So this is this is kind of an energy experience. It'll be part classroom instruction, so you'll get to learn who Sekhmet is, why she's important now as the strong feminine goddess healing energy of ancient Egypt. And also, we're going to have some fun because it is the new moon. So, we're going to be setting our intentions to work with Sekhmet. And it's all her energy is about clearing blocks, clearing fears, clearing blocks, working with energy to also move through the Kundalini, where you can work with specifically your second chakra, which is about manifestation, and your throat chakra about self-expression. So she's a lion goddess, which means we bring in the element of fire. Very important now. I'll talk a little bit more about the astrology. But if anyone doesn't know, I'm an astrologer as well as an Egyptologist. So you guys know me through Julietta, and we've been doing work together for years. But this idea is like, if you can't go to Egypt, which I hope you do, but for some reason, if you can't get there right now for whatever reason, that this is kind of bringing in that energy. It's not just a class, and that's one of the reasons why she and I wanted to do this, so that we can actually infuse that energy, that frequency of what she and I both experienced in Egypt. And I've been experiencing it now for probably 30 years. And this idea of it's like a parallel reality, quantum field you walk into. And so we want to create that in terms of the healing energy so that you can bring that into your own life. And Sekhmet's name comes from the word Sekhem, which is the energy work that we're going to be working with and talking about. And Sekhem means power. And it's basically the Kundalini power that we have residing within us and how to raise that. And they show that in specific temples in Egypt. You'll see it very much on the temple walls. And it's always the priestess or the queen or the goddess standing behind the pharaoh in certain positions, moving up the energy, up the spine, the serpent energy. And that's what Julietta and I are so thrilled to be able to share when we work together. So
I
go
think
ahead,
a lot of our
Julietta.
audience doesn't have any clue who Sekhmet is. And, even speaking from, our first trip that we went to Egypt in 2017, I had never heard of Sekhmet. I had no idea who she was until we showed up at her temple one day. So can you tell our audience a little bit about who Sekhmet is? And
Yes, of course. Sekhmet is the lion goddess who is very much the powerful deity in ancient Egypt of the goddess pantheon. So she's the one where she's ferocious, the way a mother lion is ferocious. She's protective. So there's a lot of healing protection with her. There's also the sense of moving obstacles. It's like you have to break through your fears, especially any past emotional traumas or things that are blocking you from your true self expression, which is the throat. And since most traumas are emotional, residing in the body and held in the survival, the first chakra and the second chakra, that when we work with the energy work in the class, that's not that we're going to be doing like heavy duty, stuff, but the idea is just showing through the energy movement that you can work with that energy in a very self-healing way, as well as if you want to, the way Reiki works, where if you want to use it with other people in a very safe and protected way, because I'm going to be sharing the idea of the mantras of Sekhmet and some of the prayers. Now, she is the mother of the blue lotus. She's the wife of the god Ptah, who is the creator god, one of the creator gods in ancient Egypt, who creates through sound. So sound work is very important when we work with Sekhmet. If you do any kind of sound healing, mantras, chants, affirmations, all of that comes into play here. And her son is the god Nefertum, the god of the blue lotus. And so that healing triad, the mother god, father god, and divine child of the Saqqara area, is very well known for healing from the beginning of Egypt. So we're looking at this as a blending of male-female balancing, inspiring the divine child, which is your own self-expression, through the vehicle or the archetype of working with the goddess Sekhmet herself. So this isn't about anyone taking on any kind of like grandiose, I don't profess to be a high priestess of anybody, or I'm not doing it. This isn't that. So it's not ritual work per se. I'm going to talk about the rituals in the class. I'm going to talk about the temples and how this priesthood and priestesses of Sekhmet worked, and why they were considered like the EMT or triage participants of when something was wrong. They were who you went to in emergencies. Sekhmet herself is the goddess of, they call her the goddess of war, because so many soldiers who couldn't be cured once they came back from these wars and had limbs and wounds and were, ready to die. And just can imagine back in those days what it was like. They went to the Sekhmet priests and priestesses so that they could work with the priests and priestesses would work with them in a very shamanic way. And there was a lot of differentiation in the priesthood cult of Sekhmet. And normal people, like, you wouldn't go to Sekhmet like if you had a headache. You might go if you had a really bad toothache and it had to be pulled, and there was something that was toxic or poison, because she's the goddess of healing poisons. And the pharaohs would pacify her by building hundreds of statues to Sekhmet in their temples to ward off plagues. And because they believed that she could bring pestilence and she could also remove it. So you didn't want to get on her bad side. And there's a whole mythology that goes about why did they think that she brought pestilence, because of the way she's associated with the summer season. And in ancient Egypt, if you go to Luxor right now, it's 109 degrees today, or 108. So it's like summer in ancient Egypt was terrible, and the Nile was really low, and there were bugs and all kinds of terrible things that the people had to deal with. And sickness was one of them. And because Sekhmet was associated with that time of the year for many reasons, which I'll go into when we do the class, because it's too much, all of that's too much for our little introduction today. But the idea is that she was protection because she's the avenging eye of Ra. And we know that Ra is the sun. So anything that was very powerful, and even powerful in a negative way that came from the sun, like pestilence or solar storms or fires, all of that was associated with Sekhmet. Now, the common people didn't really understand a lot of the esoteric principles, which I was going to get to when we go into the class. But for her, it was more like, ooh, you just wanted to be on the good side. You wanted to like almost like be wary of her, but know that she existed if you needed her. Again, people didn't really go to her like they went to Isis or prayers and everyday supplication, or Hathor, who everyone loved. But Hathor is the goddess of love and beauty. But it's interesting because Hathor and Sekhmet are two faces of the sun, because they're both daughters of Ra, the sun god. Sekhmet is the very fierce face, the lion, and Hathor is the cow goddess. And also Bastet, Hathor, Bastet, and Sekhmet, three phases of the one goddess having to do with the sun, They're all three daughters of the sun god Ra. So I'll touch in a little bit with that in the class as well, because the idea of how these developed is over about 6,000 or 7,000 years. And so it's not like we had, oh, one goddess that we pick her out and she's that. No, they morphed as the religion morphed with the people. But the lineage of Sekhmet goes back to the stars. She's very much associated with Sirius. And so I'm going to talk about that as well in the class. And one of the things that's really special about this class, because we're doing it on the new moon on the 14th, is we're going to have Julietta has her cacao ceremonies, really beautiful, that she does. We're going to do a blue lotus tea ceremony, because Sekhmet is the mother of the blue lotus. And she's the protectress of my pond and my retreat center in Luxor, where we're growing the blue lotus. So the flowers that we're going to use for this tea actually come from Egypt. They come from there now, which is part of the conservation project. And anyone who comes to this class is actually helping to conserve, because the proceeds go to the lotus over there this time. So we're really happy about that. And working with the tea, lotus tea, and setting the intention for the new moon with Sekhmet is going to be very powerful. So even if you do nothing else, but just come for that part, because we're going to do that in the morning, it's like there's nowhere else that you're ever going to experience that. I mean, you could buy blue lotus online and you could drink it, and it's all very good. Lotus are lotus. But these blue lotus are indigenous to Africa, because they came from Sudan when we got these, and this is where they're growing. They're growing on temple land in Luxor. And so it's part of my work in Egypt, but I would like to share that, because very few people have a chance. Julietta is one of them. Very few people have a chance to actually go and experience what those lotus are like in person.
And I think, because so many people out there today are advertising that they're selling Egyptian blue lotus tea, and but when you've seen the actual Egyptian blue lotuses versus what other people are selling as Egyptian blue, like, there is no comparison. It's beyond obvious that it's not the same thing. And so that in itself, to be able to come and experience this tea, is something that so few people will ever have the chance to experience.
And I, I've never done that before. This is the first time that I'm ever doing that publicly, unless people are with me at my house in Egypt. But that's in honor of Sekhmet, because I'll let Julietta explain or talk about her experience. But we had a very special experience on this last trip, where the chamber of Sekhmet that we normally go into was closed. The Egyptian government has closed it, which is interesting, because since Sekhmet is all about the divine, powerful feminine, of course they closed it. And now you can visit it, but it's private time, and you have to pay a couple $1,000s to go in, where we've been going for I've been going for 30 years and just going in and, tipping the little guardians there to let us in. But now that's changed. And so we went to the Moot Chapel. I'm sorry, the Moot open air area, which is a huge lake shaped like a half moon, because it's shaped like a crescent moon, because they did the ceremony there, the big ritual for Moot, on the day of Sekhmet, which is June 14th, according to the old Egyptian calendar. I'm sorry, June 13th, and we're having our ceremony on June 14th for the new moon. So it's all connected. And as an astrologer, when I saw that, I thought, that's the day we're going to do the class. And now, this trip in November, when I'm going over, we are going to do private time back in the Sekhmet chamber. And we also will do the open air Moot Sacred Lake. So everything is going to be in this trip. But last, when we were there, Julietta, what was it? Was it March? Is that when we were there?
Yes.
No, we were there in November. Yeah, we were there in November. Oh no, we were there in March.
We were there in
time
March.
is like crazy.
Yes. No, and I have to say, like, when I found out that we weren't going to be able to go into the private temple with Sekhmet. I was very disappointed, but I have to say now that I'm glad that we couldn't, because that, you know, forced us to try something different. And so going to the Temple of Mut, I was going in with, you know, negative thoughts, like being upset that I wasn't able to go and see, you know, the living statue of Sekhmet, but having no idea that, you know, going into this open air space with, I don't even know how many statues of Sekhmet were there. And then they do have that one large, really intact one. And like literally I sat down in front of her and just like wept. And I was not expecting any of that. And I think that is one of the Sekhmet's skills, is that she sneaks up on you, and like it's unexpected, and her energy just hits you and overcomes you. And so yeah, I'm really glad that we got to go to the Temple of Mut.
She's very powerful. And that day I saw you, and you were all by yourself. I mean, everyone else was like kind of spread out because it's a big place, open air. People were spread out and finding their statues to meditate with. And Julietta was right there at the mother statue. And I could see that. It was almost like you were transporting, like lifted up. And it reminded me of the story of Bernadette, Saint Bernadette at Lourdes, when the Blessed Mother appeared to her and she was lifted up. It was like, oh my God, like Julietta's having a, you know, an amazing peak experience here. But yeah, so we had something very special because of that. And, you know, this time, yes, we will go into the chamber. But also I'm going to allow people to have that experience outside as well. So we're going to do everything. But what's interesting about the Sekhmet chamber, the Karnak temple inside chamber, it's really small. It's only about like 4 or 5 feet wide, and you know, it's high ceilinged, but very small. So not a lot of people could fit in there, and it's completely dark, and they lock it. And so when you go in, the guardian opens the key, and you know, kind of make a big deal about it. And they open the door, and you're in this pitch blackness usually, and then your eyes get accustomed to the light, and you see her. And she's standing there. She's about 7 feet tall, black diorite, which is black basalt granite. And she's just looking at you, like almost like not really down at you, but her gaze is front. But no matter where you're standing in that room, you feel like she's looking right at your eyes. And it never fails to like make me want to just like go down on my knees and just like thank the universe that, you know, there's energy that's still intact enough in Egypt that we could go there, because that statue's never been moved in 6,000 years, or 4,000 years since they first built that temple. It's been there, and it's just been gathering and holding space. And so it is interesting, because I kind of feel like that's what the lotus do over there in Luxor. They're holding space. And there again, it's not like everyone has to go to Egypt to feel that. Hopefully you'll feel some of it if you come to this class. And it's why I wanted to do the class in person. Julietta and I wanted to do this in person, not an online class, not something that you just which is great to have something like that, to get the information and do it in your own home at your own time. But this is like, we're going to create the temple atmosphere. And you're going to be walking into that. And hopefully your guides are going to work with you, as well as Sekhmet. And because it's a new moon, bring in whatever it is that you need to work with in your life. And it's different for everyone. Self-expression is a term everyone uses, but what it means in your own life is up to you. It could just be that you're learning how to, talk back to people who, are mean to you, or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're creating a great book. Yeah, learning how to say no, exactly. And so that's something that's a personal part of this. And we have the class broken. It's a morning sessions and afternoon sessions, and a nice long lunch break in between. Thanks to Julietta. If it was up to me, I'd give you 15 minutes and that would be back. So the morning, I'm going to talk a lot about the goddess lineage of Sekhmet and who she is as the goddess herself, where she's placed in the Egyptian mystery schools, how they taught it in the mystery schools, what's important if you want to set up your own Sekhmet altar, how to do that, the kind of the background. And then also a little bit about the astrology. And then we'll talk, we'll go to lunch. And then when we come back, Julietta will talk about the techniques, and we'll maybe do 2 or 3 presentations so that, you know, people can work on each other, or she can work on me, or I'll work on something, just so we can show you how they did it in the temple attunement. And then you'll get your own attunement. And we're going to be working with the Sekhmet oil, the Sekhmet incense that I have from Egypt. And there is the sense of just feeling like, again, like you're taking part in something that's a very ancient lineage, and also receiving it in our new frequency, which is moving it into the world now and becoming stronger for it. I'm also going to be sharing a little bit about the oracle card readings that I do. So if we have enough time, we can all pick a card and do a group reading with those cards. Bring a notebook. I always forget to say that, but definitely bring a notebook, because you might want to take notes. And I will be having handouts to give people, like actual real paper, not on your iPhone. But if you want to put it on your iPhone, I'll email it to you later. But basically, it's just so there's something that you can take with you that's real, that's not on a device. And a book list, because some people might want to know more. And because I have over 50 years of research and doing all this, I have a nice book list if you want to know more about Sekhmet. So that's, it's like how we set it up is as if you were going into the temple and moving through it and receiving something that's very special. And then who it's for. Julietta, who's this class for?
Well, and that, because it's easy to say, like, anybody who's interested in Sekhmet or interested in Egypt, of course, this is for you. And it might also be like you just hear the word Sekhmet and you like feel something stir in you, even if you have no idea who she is. Sometimes just having that that feeling in your body, like this is something that I'm supposed to pay attention to. And then also anybody who is an energy worker, is it accurate to say like this is the original energy medicine? So whether you're a Reiki
energy medicine's been forever, but this idea of using it through the Egyptian lineage, it's very, very old. So we can say that some of these techniques in ancient Egypt come to us from Atlantis. And you can see behind me, like, these symbols and things that are Egyptian. Let me see if I can move out of the way. The flower of life, the Ankh, the Wa scepter. All of these things that we've come to associate with ancient Egypt are actually Atlantean. And so what we're looking at is a lineage that's even older than ancient Egypt. And I talked about Sekhmet being part of the lineage that goes to Sirius. And there's a whole lineage of Atlantean Syrian magic that is Egyptian, that it's like it comes through the ranks. And then in Egypt, we get it, morphed with the Egyptian shamanism that they had there as an indigenous culture, the star cults. We've got the solar cults with the sun, the sons of the sun. So Egypt is like this mother lode of anything that was esoteric going on the planet. And because there was no accident that they situated and built the Great Pyramid at the exact geodetic center of the Earth land mass on planet Earth after the flood subsided. So they got that. That 33-degree parallel is like universal. And so there's people who have written hundreds of books on that. But there's that about Egypt. And then we're talking about like the lineage of Isis. Okay, there's a huge lineage of people who follow the cult of Isis. There's Hathor, and Sekhmet has become popular since women have come into owning their own power. Now, there's always been esoteric women, like the women, some of the book list stuff that I'll give you, where women have been writing about this since the early 1900s. As soon as they were archaeologists and they figured it out, and a lot of the women at the beginning that were Egyptologists and archaeologists that went over there loved Sekhmet's temple in ancient Egypt. And it's funny because the Egyptians themselves, the local people in that area, were always afraid of that statue. So they never touched it. Now, everything else in Egypt was like pillaged, and they took blocks from the temples to build houses and all that stuff. But nobody went near that temple. And so there's a reason for that. And again, it comes down through folklore and superstition. But the idea of her being there, and it's like a protective shield, okay? And that shield is something that you can feel if you're sensitive. And that's not something that anybody could make up. You know, like I can't make up a story about Sekhmet, and then, you know, you go there and you stand there and you go, oh man, you know, Mary's full of crap. You know, I don't feel anything here. That I have never brought a person there that hadn't felt that energy. And it wasn't my first trip to Egypt, because I had been with her many times. But the important trip where I felt like she really saved my life was I was in school in Egypt, in Cairo, and I got a phone call in the middle of the night that my mother died. So I had to go back home to New York, actually to Pennsylvania, where my family lived, and go to my mother's funeral. And I had a significant other at that time who broke up with me after 19 years at the same time. So it was like my life was over in less than a week. And I knew I was still a student in Egypt, so I was going to go back there. And I thought, I left my mom's funeral, got on a plane. I don't even remember getting from the plane to Luxor, but I did. And I went straight to Sekhmet. It was like, I think I left my suitcase in the taxi. It was like, it was such a big deal for me to just go there. And I remember the guardian saw me, and they already knew me because I was there all the time from working there. And he just opened the door and let me in, and then closed it and didn't come back for like 3 or 4 hours. And I was just, and it's like you said, it was like I really like let out my soul, and that was it. And it was like, okay, my life changed after that. I stayed in Egypt for about 4 years after that, because it was like she cut the cords. And it was something that I, you know, between being in the Great Pyramid and the King's Chamber and asking, you know, all my gods, I want to, you know, cut the cords with anything that doesn't serve me. And they did. But I never expected it to be so dramatic. Now, for most people, it's not that dramatic. But the idea is that it's not like, we're not making it up. So whatever it is that you bring into this, that you feel like you want to work on in your life, we're providing this sacred, safe space for that. And I'll give you information and tools to work with. And then you just go do the work. And then that's your adventure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was, you know, anybody who does energy work, you know, whether you're a Reiki practitioner, quantum touch, hands of light, like anybody following any of those traditions, this is a beautiful addition to that. Also, anybody who's seeking for tools to do energy work on themselves, because, you know, I always laugh when people ask me if I work with energy, and I'm like, we're all working with energy. It's just, are we doing it with intention or not? And, you know, so if you're looking for some structure and some intention to use your energy with, you know, this is a extremely powerful way of doing that.
It is. And you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said, and it could be as easy as learning how to like say no, in your life, or to just feel like, okay, I'm tired of just like doing everything for everybody. Like I need to take back my personal power, because that's a lot of what her energy is. It's about taking back your personal power with all these cords that come out of your second chakra and go here, go there, go here, go there. And it's like you're constantly feeding the world, but nothing's coming back. It's like, and we all do that. I mean, especially people who are in the helping professions. That's what we do. We're in the helping professions. But there's a sense of like, okay, well, how do I get it resourced? How do I, and we all have our own ways of doing that, which is true. This is another layer of something. And you don't have to know anything about Egypt to do this. It's almost like you don't have to unlearn anything, so it's fine. You just come and again, it's like just to experience the lotus tea, and I'm gonna, we're gonna have the an altar set up, so that if you want to go home, not that you have to like set up a big, temple space altar, but that, if there's, I'm going to talk about the certain crystals and gems that are associated with Sekhmet, and Julietta has amulets, and you can, there's things that you can take away with you, that if you want to make a space on your altar or in a place in your home, just to honor that particular energy. In fact, I think I have a piece here. Citrine is one of the stones that she's very much in line with, because we're working with that second chakra. And I think, I see her. She's right behind me. There's my Sekhmet in front of the blue lotus, a tiny one. But this idea of where you live and work, like you want to have something in your space that you honor, that gives you a sense of power. Like not power over, not like I'm going to be manipulating or controlling, everybody that comes into my space. But it's a reminder that I speak my truth, and that I will only accept truth from anyone else. It's like when people say, well, how do you know what to believe, all this crap that's out there? I know what to believe, because my discernment is strong. And that's what Sekhmet, she gives you that. I shouldn't say she gives it to you, because we all already have it. We just don't know we have it. She enhances it, so that fire, remember, fire is creativity. And so, and inspiration. And so her husband, Ptah, the god of creator, he's the god of the masons, he's the builder, and he builds through sound. So when people say, well, how did they build all that stuff? Well, there's a big clue, because one of the first creator gods is the god of sound, and he was a mason. So, duh. But anyway, she's the fiery feminine creatrix behind the male. So you'll always see her, or whoever it is, Isis, Sekhmet, Hathor, they're standing behind the male god of the pharaoh with their hands up, building up the energy from the spine to the crown. And then the pharaoh wears the vulture and the cobra crown. The pharaoh's crown always has that, which shows that he's an initiate. He's not just a king. You don't see the king of France walking around with a cobra and a vulture on his head. That was to show that they weren't just kings of like castles and palaces and things. They were initiates, and Ramses the Great. We know Ramses from Egypt because he's everywhere. I think he's even in touring Japan now. The Ramses stuff. That he built all of these temples and dedicated them to Sekhmet. Many, many, many Ramses temples are dedicated to Sekhmet, because the family of Ramses the Great came from Saqqara. And so Ptah, Sekhmet, and Nefertum, those three gods, were there. We could call them their patron saints. And in huge chiseled letters. I mean, the letters are like 6 feet deep, carved into the rock. Ramses says, I am of Sekhmet. I am born out of Sekhmet, which means that the devotion to Sekhmet was so strong that nothing could take down Ramses. It was like, if he was Sekhmet, then nothing could take him down. And, he was pharaoh for 70 years. I think he lived to be 93 or something like that. So there is that. And when we're doing that in our own personal lives, it's not high drama, but it's this idea of being true to yourself and being able to reflect that. It's like when you really know who you are, and you don't make any real apologies for that, then people accept you, and if they don't, too bad. That's what I love about Sekhmet. And it's like her ruling astrological planet is Pluto, and Pluto takes no prisoners. It's total transformation. And again, I'll talk a lot about that in the class, and about how we use that energy, the energy of Sekhmet, and how some of these netters are applied astrologically, and how you could see them in your chart. Very strong Pluto energy, which is very, if someone has strong Pluto in their chart, they have a very strong connection to Sekhmet. We're all good with astrology in our ancient Egyptian pantheon. So yeah,
I will say, it strikes me so much when we're over there how many statues of Sekhmet there are compared to all the other things. There are abundantly more Sekhmet statues than any of the other gods or goddesses. And
right. Yeah, you hardly see any of the, like, you'll see a lot of paintings, but and wall paintings, but you very rarely see all the statues of the other gods and goddesses are in the museums. But the thing, because these pharaohs, especially the 18th dynasty, which is like the midpoint of ancient Egypt, the high point, let's say around the time of Akhenaten, okay? I think people know Akhenaten and Ramses the Great, that high point of Egypt. There were plagues, and we know about that from the Bible and Moses, and they think that Moses was probably part of the court of Akhenaten's father, who was just ahead of Ramses. The Ramses kings came after all that, but that these time of plagues, it was so drastic that the pharaoh would erect 1,000 statues. Like on this feast day that we're coming up to in June, they would say, okay, we're going to commission like 100 statues, the 4 directions, 400 statues in each direction in each part of the temple. And the workmen would just go to work and build all these statues, and then they would place them. Now, what happened over the years, once Egypt was conquered by Rome, the Romans didn't really like Sekhmet that much. They loved Isis. They actually brought Isis to to England and to Celtic Britain. But they had no use for Sekhmet because she was a powerful woman. And the Romans, by the time we're in the Roman times, we're already in the time of the patriarchal, like, chauvinistic crap. Egyptians weren't like that. So they buried a lot of the Sekhmet statues. The Romans just said, okay, that's it. We don't even want to see her face. And when they buried them, they turned them upside down because they knew she was powerful. So they buried them upside down. And then the Christians came, or concurrently with the Romans, and the Christians really hated Sekhmet. And she was not, they deified Isis so much, and baby Horus, that that was a perfect marriage for the Blessed Mother and the baby Jesus. But Sekhmet and Hathor, they didn't know what to do with them, so they just broke whatever statues of Hathor they could find. And Sekhmet, again, they would bury them, or they would deface them in a particular way, like they would cut off their noses or cut off the hands and feet. So that's why you see a lot of broken Sekhmet statues where they're cut at the waist with no nose, because it was all about taking away the power. That's why when we go into that chamber, you feel it, because it's still operating on the same level. Maybe not exactly the same as it was in the 18th dynasty, but it's still pretty powerful. She still stands there. And again, it's a calling. Not everyone is a Sekhmet girl or a Sekhmet woman or a Sekhmet guy, if you will. But it's good to know that exists if you need it. Like if you need a helping hand to get through grief, trauma, devastation, things where it's like, what do I do now? Like that feeling, she's there just exuding this like strong protective strength. Like I hear her all the time, she'll say, oh, I got your back. got your back, got your back. And that, because that's what they're doing in those reliefs in the temples. You'll see them, they got the back. There's Sarah. So that's, I mean, that's kind of a roundabout way of explaining who she is, but it's so personal. You know, I think that when you are open to it, and if, you know, a lot of times people ask questions, and that's a really good way to like get their information. You know exactly what you want to hear. So I love questions. So we'll have time for questions and stuff also.
Yes.
So just like comfortably. Julietta has a great place. So
yeah, so the room we're going to be in is a meditation room. So many beautiful events have happened in there. The energy in the room itself is spectacular. And there's most people sit on the floor, but we can bring chairs in for anybody who can't sit on the floor. In the comments, I have the link for where you can register. It's also on the ticker that's going across the top of the screen here. If you want to register there, if you want to register and you'd rather pay cash or Zelle or something like that instead, reach out to Mary or I, and that's fine. We can handle that as well. You know, this also, like, if Egypt is calling you and maybe you want to go to Egypt with Mary in November, this would be a great initiation to the Egyptian energy and the Egyptian ways. When are you going to Egypt in November this year?
November 8th to November 20th is the main tour, where we'll be doing all the temples, especially private time with Sekhmet at Karnak Temple, private time at the Sphinx. And there's an option when we do the after trip option is to the Siwa Oasis, and it'll be a full moon at Siwa. And for that full moon, and it's November 23rd, I believe, right before Thanksgiving, we'll go to the Oracle of a Moon, and we'll get our oracle energy and see. The desert is gorgeous at that time of the year. It's the only time I would go because summer's way too hot to go there, and even spring is too hot. But November and the winter is fine. So that's it's going to be a really beautiful tour. And again, we do things so that you can experience it fully, and that you get it's like you get the fun parts of Egypt, but you also get the esoteric parts, so that you understand why you're in these places, not just ticking them off like, oh yeah, I went there. I said, you know, there's my Instagram post. This is like, if you really want the initiate's experience of Egypt, then that's, you know, what I've been doing for years. And Julietta has been with me like at least 5 or 6 times doing the same thing. So it's like, when we say we love Egypt, we really love it, because you got to love it to keep going back, you know. And most people that I go with go back. I mean, it should be like written on the bottom of their ticket. Yeah, beware, because you'll be back. So we're, you know, to me, it's my lifestyle. But for people who don't do that, I like to share that feeling, so that there's some bit of it. Like, you can go to museum. It's like my good friend Dr. Hawass is in New York right now, and he's speaking tomorrow. And, you know, I would love to go up there and see him, but it's like, it's just too much trouble and too expensive and all of that to just go for one day. But it is exciting. I mean, you know, people stand in line for hours to, you know, hear what he has to say and watch the, you know, videos of it and the slideshow and all of that. And it's like bringing a little piece of it. So he brings the like big Egyptology, archaeology piece of it, and we're bringing you the goddess piece of it.
So my feed is like filled constantly these days about all the new discoveries in Egypt. What's going on with all of that?
Oh, big discoveries. The SARS radar people, the 2 scientists that a year ago said that they were able to do radar from the sky, I forget the name of it exactly because I'm like so not scientific, but they found lots of tunnels and caverns and things underneath the Giza Plateau, which everyone knows that they're there. They've been there for years. But the idea is that they're actually proving that they're structures. And so on the summer solstice, which is June 21st, they are doing a live conference. I think it's going to be on social platforms. And they're going to be making a big announcement that they have discovered a second Sphinx, or that there is actual proof from the underground radar that a second Sphinx exists. And that in ancient times, people talked about two Sphinxes. It's just that they never found a second one. And now they're saying that we can't. And that kind of goes along with Edgar Cayce talked about this a lot. He talked about the Hall of Records, which was beneath the right paw of the Sphinx, which is why I like to do private time there at the paws of the Sphinx, so we can meditate there and get, that energy personally. But if you go up close to the Sphinx, there's a stele, a stone tablet that sits at the paws of the Sphinx, right at the chest of the Sphinx. And on that stone tablet, there's a picture of two Sphinxes back to back, sitting on the top of a temple. And Edgar Cayce said that was the temple that's below the Sphinx. And a lot of people who go there and meditate feel it. I mean, you can't see it, but they feel that there's something there. And so these scientists have radar specialists, I don't know what the right term is, but engineers have said that they can prove that these are actual structures, not just AI. Because now with AI, I mean, it's like anybody could say anything. And so when they first came out with this last year, I was like, it looks like a little AI, a little too AI for me. I'm not sure I believe it. But after reading and looking a lot at what they're talking about and knowing that the historical, esoteric, psychic people have been talking about this for ages, that they probably did hit on something. And so I'm going to, really tune into that. And so when we do go in November, we're actually able to walk and see all this, like, not what's underground, but actually see what they're talking about on top of the ground. And if anybody's interested, there's a really good guy on Facebook. He's a friend of mine, and his name is Trevor Grassi, Grasse. If you look him up on Facebook, his posts are incredible about every single thing that's going on in Egypt right now. It's like he's just given his life over to like archaeological research over there, and I think it's really incredible what's going on. We've never seen anything like it. Now, in Egypt, there's a lot of rules, and they're really making it very, 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 very commercial. Like I said, closing the Sekhmet chapel, so now you have to pay thousands of dollars to go in there and all of that. But, as much as they try to close off the energy, there's just more stuff coming up. And Edgar Cayce said it would come around this time, 2026, 2027. Very interesting.
You talk a lot about astrology. Are you taking new astrology clients? You do private readings?
I'm always taking astrology clients, new, old. And so if anybody wants an astrology reading, I do karmic astrology, which is looking at all of your planets, all of the archetypes, and transit forecasting, which is coming up. I do children's charts, relocation charts, relationship charts. Actually, relationship charts are my favorite. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me, you can just, I'm sure Julietta is going to put a link up in her, but just you can Google Mary Lomando, and everything, all my stuff comes up. My website, my email, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. You can find me. I'm pretty visible. But astrology is basically what I do every day, because I can't be in Egypt every day. So two things I'm very, very passionate about in my life. In addition to my husband, I should say, there's three. But Egyptology and astrology. It's like, that's it. That's my life.
All right, just put your, I think it's loading up there. There we go.
Oh
your
yeah,
website is in the comments there as well, so people can
right. And
easily
I
reach
always
out to you there.
emails best way to get me personally.
Yeah. All right. Anything else they need to know before we let you go?
Well, let's see. Let me consult my notes for the first time here and see if there's anything that I forgot. Well, if anybody wants any information that we didn't cover here in this video, I'm sorry, in the podcast, then you can definitely contact me personally and ask me anything you want. Because unlike Julietta, I do this 24 hours a day. Like when I get off here now I'm emailing people in Egypt about what's going on here, what are we doing here, like, so it's like I'm always in Egypt, just not physically. So if you have any questions and there's anything you want to know about the class, you can call me or email me or send me a DM, whatever it is they're doing now. WhatsApp me.
She's everywhere, easy to find.
I'm easy
All
to
right.
find. Not the only place I'm not easy to get a hold of is by phone because I'm always on the phone. So yeah, any of those other things will do though. Texting works though. That comes up. Okay,
All right.
I had fun, Julietta.
I am so looking forward to this event on a Sunday. Sekhmet's my girl. And
No, everybody come, otherwise Julietta and I will have to play by ourselves.
all right, everyone, have a wonderful day. Reach out if you have any questions, and we hope to see you there on Sunday.